It's 1997. Oasis and the Spice Girls are battling it out for number one. A young David Beckham has just helped to take Man United to the top of the Premier League for a second time. But this is also the year that the era of mass migration to the UK began to intensify. In the 25 years leading up to the landslide victory of Tony Blair's New Labour, the average annual net migration was 68,000. In the 25 years that followed, it's tripled to an average of 236,000. And recent changes to the immigration system have only accelerated this trend. In just 2 years, 2022 and 2023, about 1.3 million people came to the UK legally. This is despite the fact that no government elected in the last 50 years has stood on a manifesto which promised to increase immigration. In fact, every government since 2010 has explicitly promised to reduce it. Many have argued that this has been great for the British economy. But is that really the case? Is mass migration really delivering the economic growth we were told that it would? Sure, aside from 2020, GDP figures present a picture of an economy which has been growing, albeit slowly, since the financial crash. But what happens when you look at another measure, GDP per capita? This is calculated by dividing the value of a country's GDP by its population. In other words, it's GDP per person. It's a much better measure of our prosperity and our economic health. And it paints a completely different picture. GDP per capita has stagnated. From 1993 to 2008, it grew at 2.5%. But since 2008, it has grown on average by 0.5% every year. That means that we should be 30% richer today than we actually are. In other words, GDP has been artificially boosted by adding more and more people to our population, creating a larger economy by default. But we've not been getting individually richer. The UK's productivity rates have been almost flatlining too. In the 3 decades before the financial crash, the annual average productivity growth rate was 2.1%. But from 2010 to 2019, the average was 0.6%. That means workers are on average £5,000 a year less well off. No wonder so many Brits feel like they haven't been getting wealthier. This paper does not argue that mass migration is the cause of our poor economic performance. Over the years, there have been many factors at play, from our sclerotic planning system to our burdensome taxation and over-regulation. We also have the most expensive industrial energy in Europe. But it clearly hasn't been the solution. In fact, it's allowed politicians to get away with delaying difficult decisions about growth and living standards. Instead of fixing the UK's structural issues, they've been increasing the size of the population and the economy, adding a temporary boost to the working age population. I've previously called this human quantitative easing. In many ways, mass migration has been integral to propping up our current economic model by acting as a subsidy for certain sectors, especially our universities and our healthcare system. Migration figures need to come down to the tens of thousands again, but it's clear that we cannot do so without major economic reform. That doesn't involve being hostile to other cultures, pulling up the drawbridge, or making the state responsible for deciding which highly skilled migrants businesses most need. Instead, we should auction a capped number of work visas to employers, allowing them to select the best talent. And we should boost capital investment and support automation, reducing the need for low-skilled, cheap labour from abroad. Reducing migration should be a progressive cause. The proposals in our new paper would establish an economy that invests in the UK workforce, creating as many opportunities as possible for people right across the country. Workers would be better paid for the work they do. We would become more productive and innovative. Working practices would move with the times rather than being stuck in the past. We would see major advances in cutting-edge technologies and scientific discovery, confidently facing the new frontiers of AI and space exploration. Britain would become an ideal destination for the world's most ambitious and intelligent people to live, work and study. In short, this is a programme for a Britain that embraces progress and can prosper in the 21st century.